Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm going to be remastering my old tips and tricks video, so if you guys want to see how you can improve in Blade and Sorcery, stick around to the end. Hopefully this helps most players, old and new, and helps everyone to improve their gameplay massively. Let's start. So for starters, choosing your weapon, I recommend the spear or the short sword, as both are extremely versatile and very easy to use. The next thing I want to touch on is movement in combat. Now, as you can see here, standing still really doesn't do well. You end up getting too overcrowded, and it doesn't do well for your offensive either, as it's much harder to kill enemies when you're standing still. You can't reach weak spots. Whereas you can see here, when you're moving, it's a lot easier to avoid attacks and attack at the same time, finishing enemies off fast. Movement is essential for getting better at the game. Learning how to move around your enemies and their attacks is so important, and learning enemies' attacks brings me on to my next thing, and that would be practice blocking. Just with a shield or a sword, just practice learning enemy attacks, practice the different ranges that their attacks come out at, learn how to counter jump attacks, swing attacks, spin attacks, anything you can, and eventually start using those counters to, instead of block, dismember or fight back. Learn how to counter enemies and take them out with their own attacks. That would be my best advice for fighting enemies, is just practice learning their attacks and taking them down through their own force. Another thing I would make sure you definitely do is try to learn your environments and take advantage of them. Climbing is a great way to move to another point and get yourself out of danger if you're taking way too much damage or cramped up in a corner. Another reason using your environment is good is you can actually use it to get height advantage on enemies for easy kills. For example, it's also an incredible tool for stealth. The next thing I would focus on is learning your weapon. So, different weapons have different ways of fighting. For example, as you can see, the spear, you can actually use the back of the pole to knock enemies down, and kind of as a blunt weapon. The spear can also be used really well with kicks, which we'll probably cover in a few minutes. Kicks are amazing. Anyway, one thing I want to mention and cover that I don't actually show in the footage is armor. Now, armor has been throwing off a lot of new players, as it is a little confusing how the mechanics work, so I'm going to go through it simply. Piercing weapons are great for leather and skin, but will be absolutely useless when it comes to metal armor. Blunt weapons are great overall, but best against metal armor or no armor. Fire imbued weapons can pierce armor and will do very good damage if you do manage to pierce the armor. Other than that, I would say that slashing is great against most enemies, and really when you're fighting against armor, you need to look for weak points, so the face holes and the gaps underneath the arms. Focus these points and you'll be fine. If you're like me and you're playing with armor off, fine. Honestly, you don't need to worry about it. But this is for people who want to keep the realism and keep the armor on. Anyway, move on to my next point. So something that I mentioned before was kicking. Now, kicking knocks enemies off balance and it's incredibly powerful to use. I don't have a whole lot of footage of me doing it here, but it is so damn useful when it comes to killing enemies. You can just combo kicks in with attacks and they cannot fight back. The next thing I want to cover is something I get asked all the time, and that's how I flip my weapons and make them twirl. So, I hold out my hand, I turn my hand all the way this way and then quickly turn it that way, and it ends in a result like this. It essentially tricks the game into making the hand flip all the way around. It's a physics bug, but it works really well, and I really hope they don't fix it because I use it for a lot of my content to make it look good. So you can end up doing things like that, and then flip the weapon around and stab again. It's very flashy, very cool, and very good for cinematic videos. And you can do it pretty much with any weapon. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. One thing people seem to always forget about is you do have hands, and your hands are incredibly useful for fighting, throwing enemies to the ground, grappling, punching, and just in general fighting with another weapon. They can really be used to just throw enemies around and knock them off balance for easy kills. so keep in mind you do have another hand. Also, do try to remember that if you are being overwhelmed, you do have an environment and ways to throw enemies off ledges to give yourself easy kills and save yourself any stress an enemy might be causing you. For example. No problem. A very small thing that should be extremely obvious but for some reason is not, is aim for the face and neck. Now, the reason I say that is because a lot of people tend to just stab anywhere they want, and aiming for these points really gives you an advantage. And don't be afraid to practice in slow-mo, there's nothing wrong with that, and the more you practice, the better you'll get when it comes to full speed gameplay. Also try to remember that enemies do have legs, and it's incredibly easy to disable them, knock them down and get rid of them without any trouble by going for those. I've also noticed that a lot of players don't use magic. Now I understand it can break immersion if you're just trying to do some medieval combat, but remember magic is a good way to get yourself out of trouble and really quickly get rid of enemies. There are tons of different ways with telekinesis, fire, electricity and gravity, so make sure you use them to your full advantage. That also goes for imbuing your weapons, as fire imbued weapons are great against metal armoured opponents. So, make sure you be doing that too. Back on the topic of magic and environments, telekinesis can be used to throw objects at your enemies to disable them, knock them down, or take them off balance, or even sometimes kill them. For example, I just killed this guy with a sandbag and proceeded to, for some reason, stab him and make sure his head would come off. We all do the same in this game, we're all psychos. Anyway guys, I really hope this helped, and if there's anything you think I missed or anything you didn't know, let me know in the comments. Anyway guys, I think by the end of today we should hit 1,000 subscribers, which would be incredible. So I just want to say thank you beforehand, and I hope you guys are enjoying the content. Let me know if there's anything you guys want to know about or any videos you want to see me do, challenges or otherwise. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that bell, and I will see you guys probably later today or maybe tomorrow. See you in a bit.